They caged the human with a predator. By morning, the predator protected him like a cub. The guards threw Yun Tae-woo into the cell like he was garbage. He hit the metal floor hard, and the air left his lungs. Behind him, the energy barrier hummed back to life. The Valkyrie guards laughed with their clicking sounds and walked away. Tae-woo stayed on the floor for a moment. His body hurt. His head hurt. Everything hurt. 3 days ago, he was an engineer on a cargo ship. Now he was a prisoner on an alien station orbiting a dead moon. The Valkyrie had attacked his ship without warning. They killed most of the crew. They took the rest. He pushed himself up slowly and looked around the cell. It was large, maybe 10 meters wide. The walls were dark metal. There was a water dispenser in one corner and a drain in the floor. That was all. No, that was not all. Something moved in the shadows at the far end of the cell. Tae-woo's heart stopped. He had not noticed it before. Now he saw it clearly. A creature. Massive. At least 7 feet tall when standing, but right now it was crouched low. Dark fur covered its body. 4 eyes, 2 large ones in the front and 2 smaller ones on the sides, reflected the dim light. Its mouth was slightly open, showing teeth that could tear through metal. A Korath. Tae-woo had heard stories about them. Apex predators from a jungle death world. They were supposed to be the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Fast, strong, deadly. And he was locked in a cage with one. From the cells on either side, Tae-woo heard voices. Aliens of different species were watching through the barriers that separated each cell. A small creature that looked like a large rat spoke in Galactic Common, a language Tae-woo barely understood. Dead, it said. Human dead soon. Others agreed. Clicking sounds. Hissing sounds. They were all waiting to see him die. The Korath began to move. It walked forward slowly, and Tae-woo could see it better now. It was female, he thought, based on the way the fur patterns looked. She moved with the easy grace of a hunter who knew she was the most dangerous thing in any room. But something was wrong. She was limping. Her back left leg dragged slightly, and when she shifted her weight, Tae-woo saw a wound. A bad one. Burned flesh and dried blood. The injury looked infected, the fur around it matted and wet. The Korath stopped about 5 meters away from him. She lowered her head and growled. The sound was deep and powerful. It made Tae-woo's bones vibrate. He should run. He should try to fight. He should scream for help, but there was nowhere to run. He could not fight this creature, and no one would help him. So Tae-woo did something strange, something that surprised even himself. He sat down. He crossed his legs, put his hands on his knees, and lowered his eyes to the floor. He did not look at the Korath directly. He remembered reading once that many predators saw direct eye contact as a challenge. He did not want to challenge her. The growling stopped. He could hear the Korath breathing heavy, slow breaths. She was confused, maybe. She had expected him to run. Prey always ran. Tae-woo began to hum. It was a song his mother used to sing to him when he was a child. A simple song, soft and slow. He did not know why he started humming it. Maybe because he was scared. Maybe because it made him feel less alone. Maybe because it was the only thing he could do. The humming filled the silence of the cell. From the other cells, the watching aliens went quiet. They did not understand what the human was doing. The rat-like creature whispered something about humans being insane. The Korath moved closer. Tae-woo could hear her footsteps. He could feel the floor vibrate with each step. He kept his eyes down. He kept humming. She was right in front of him now. He could smell her, a wild smell, like earth and blood and something sharp. Her breath was warm on his face. He knew that if he looked up, those massive jaws would be inches from his head. He did not look up. He kept humming. The Korath sniffed him. Once, twice, 3 times. She circled around him, her nose moving over his hair, his shoulders, his back. Tae-woo stayed very still. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might break. The humming helped. It gave him something to focus on. It kept him calm, or at least calm enough not to panic. The Korath completed her circle. She stood in front of him again. Tae-woo risked a quick glance upward, just for a second. 4 eyes stared back at him. They were gold and orange, like fire. But they were not angry. They were curious. The Korath made a sound. Not a growl this time. Something softer. A rumble that came from deep in her chest. Tae-woo did not know what it meant, but it did not sound like a threat. She turned away from him. She walked back toward the shadows, her injured leg dragging behind her. She circled once, twice, then lay down on the floor. But she did not go to the far corner. She settled about 3 meters from Tae-woo, close enough to watch him, close enough to reach him in a single leap if she wanted, but she did not attack. Tae-woo let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. But he was alive. The night cycle began. The lights in the cell grew dimmer. The station was simulating darkness for the prisoners. Tae-woo stayed where he was, sitting on the cold floor. He was afraid to move, afraid to break whatever strange peace had formed between him and the predator. He started humming again, softer this time. The song floated through the cell like a ghost. The Korath watched him with those 4 golden eyes. Her ears moved slightly, tracking the sound. After a while, her eyes began to close. Not all the way, never all the way, but enough to show she was resting in the cells around them. The other prisoners watched in silence. They had expected blood. They had expected screams. Instead, they heard a human singing a strange, soft song to a monster. The rat-like creature spoke again. Humans, it said, shaking its small head. Humans are broken in the brain. Maybe they were right, Tae-woo thought. Maybe he was broken. But he was also alive. He looked at the Korath resting a few meters away. He looked at her wounded leg, the infection that was slowly spreading. If she died from that wound, he would be alone in this cell until the Velthari decided to use him for something. If she healed, she might still kill him tomorrow. But for now, in this moment, they were 2 creatures in a cage. Both hurt, both alone, both waiting to see what would happen next. Tae-woo closed his eyes and kept humming. Outside the cell, the dead moon hung in the black sky, and the station continued its slow orbit through the darkness of space. They caged the human with a predator by morning. The predator protected him like a cub. Tae-woo woke up to the sound of heavy breathing. For a moment, he did not remember where he was. Then the cold metal floor pressed against his back, and everything came rushing back. The attack on his ship. The capture. The cell. The predator. He opened his eyes slowly. The lights in the cell were still dim. The station's night cycle was not over yet. He turned his head carefully and saw the Korath lying where she had been before. But now he could hear something wrong in her breathing. It was faster than before. Rougher. Tae-woo sat up. The Korath's eyes snapped open immediately, all 4 of them locking onto him. He raised his hands slowly, showing he was not a threat. "Easy," he said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." She probably did not understand his words, but maybe she understood his tone. She watched him but did not move. Tae-woo looked at her injured leg. Even in the dim light, he could see the wound was worse. The skin around it was swollen. The fur was wet with something that was not just blood. The infection was spreading. He knew what that meant. If the infection reached her blood, she would die. Slowly, painfully. Tae-woo thought about this. If she died, he would be safer. She was a predator. She could kill him at any moment. Her death would remove that danger. But as he looked at her lying there, breathing hard, he did not feel relief. He felt sad. She had not asked to be here. She had not asked to be wounded. She was a prisoner, just like him. He made a decision. Slowly, very slowly, Tae-woo stood up. The Korath's eyes followed him. A low growl started in her throat. "I know," Tae-woo said. "You do not trust me. That is fair. But I want to help you." He walked to the water dispenser in the corner. He cupped his hands and collected some water. Then, he tore a strip of fabric from the bottom of his jumpsuit. He wet the fabric with the water. The Korath watched every movement. Her growl grew louder as he turned back toward her. Tae-woo stopped. He held up the wet cloth. "This is for your wound," he said. "I need to clean it. The infection will kill you if I do not." She did not understand the words, but maybe she understood something else. Tae-woo's heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He was scared, but he was also calm. He had made his choice. He took a step forward. The growl became a snarl. Teeth appeared long, sharp, deadly. Tae-woo stopped again. He waited. The snarl faded back to a growl. He took another step. This continued for what felt like hours. One step, wait. One step, wait. Each time, the Korath would warn him. Each time, he would stop and let her see he was not attacking. Then he would move again. Finally, he was close enough to touch her. The Korath's body was tense. Every muscle was ready to strike. But she did not strike. She watched him with those golden eyes, and she waited. Tae-woo knelt down next to her injured leg. Up close, the wound looked even worse. He could see where a shock prod had burned through her fur and into the flesh. The Valkyrie guards had done this. They had hurt her for their amusement. "I am going to touch you now," Tae-woo said softly. "Please do not kill me." He pressed the wet cloth against the wound. The Korath roared. The sound was so loud that Tae-woo's ears rang. Her body jerked, and for one terrible moment, he thought she would bite his head off. But she did not. She held herself still, trembling with the effort. Her claws dug into the metal floor, leaving deep scratches. But she did not attack. Tae-woo kept working. He cleaned the wound as gently as he could. He wiped away the infected material. He pressed the cloth against the hot, swollen skin. The Korath made sounds of pain whimpers that sounded strange coming from such a massive creature. "I know it hurts," Tae-woo said. "I am sorry. I am almost done." A Valkyrie guard walked past the cell. It stopped and looked inside. Then it made a clicking laugh. "Look at this," the guard said in Galactic Common, calling to others. "The prey is grooming its predator." How amusing. More guards came to watch. They laughed their clicking laughs. They made jokes about the stupid human who did not know he was going to die. Tae-woo ignored them. He focused on the wound. He tore more strips from his jumpsuit and made bandages. He wrapped them around the Korath's leg as best he could. When he was done, he sat back. His hands were covered in blood and infection. His jumpsuit was half torn apart. But the wound was clean, and it was covered. The Korath lifted her head and looked at her leg. She sniffed the bandages. Then she looked at Tae-woo. He did not know what he expected. Gratitude? Understanding? These were human concepts. She was not human, but something changed in her eyes. The suspicion was still there. The wildness was still there. But there was something else now. Something new. The guards got bored and walked away, still laughing. The night cycle continued. Tae-woo moved back to his corner of the cell, giving the Korath space. He was exhausted. He had not slept properly since the attack on his ship. His body wanted to collapse, but he was afraid to sleep. Afraid to close his eyes with a predator so close. He leaned against the cold wall and started humming again. The same song. His mother's song. It helped him stay calm. It helped him stay awake. Time passed. Tae-woo's eyes grew heavy. His humming became slower, softer. He was losing the fight against sleep. Then he felt something, warmth, against his side. He opened his eyes and almost screamed. The Korath had moved. Silently, without him noticing, she had crossed the cell. Now she was lying next to him. Her massive body was pressed against his side, and her warmth was flowing into him. Tae-woo stopped breathing. Every instinct told him to run, to push away, to escape. But he forced himself to stay still. The Korath turned her head and looked at him. Their eyes met. Then, slowly she rested her head on the ground near his leg. She let out a long breath and closed her eyes. She was trusting him. After everything, after all her fear and all her pain, she was choosing to trust him. Tae-woo felt tears form in his eyes. He did not know why. He was not a man who cried easily. But something about this moment, this strange, impossible moment, broke something inside him. He rested his hand on her side. He could feel her breathing, slow, steady. The fever from the infection was still there, but it was not as bad as before. In the cells around them, the other prisoners were silent. They had seen everything. The small rat-like creature stared with wide eyes. The human, it whispered to its cellmate. The human is sleeping with the Korath, like they are pack. Its cellmate, a tall, thin alien with blue skin, shook its head. Humans must be insane. Or something else, the rat creature said. Something we do not understand. In the cell, Tae-woo closed his eyes. The Korath's warmth surrounded him. Her breathing was like a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. He fell asleep. When morning came, when the lights grew bright again, the Velthory guards walked past to check on the prisoners. They expected to find a dead human and a blood-covered predator. Instead, they found a man and a beast sleeping side by side. The man's hand rested on the beast's fur. The beast's body curled around the man like protection. The guards did not laugh this time. They stared for a long moment, confused. Then they walked away, muttering to each other. Something had happened in that cell. Something they did not understand. By morning, the predator protected him like a cub. They caged the human with a predator. By morning, the predator protected him like a cubone week in the prison station. Tae-woo had lost track of the exact days, but he counted the sleep cycles. 7 times the lights had gone dim. 7 times they had grown bright again. Things had changed in the cell block. At first, the other prisoners had watched Tae-woo and Reska with fear and confusion. Now they watched with something like hope. Word spread from cell to cell through whispers and coded taps on the walls. The human and the Korath. The pair that should not exist. Sora had become Tae-woo's connection to the other prisoners. She spoke Galactic Common well after 2 months in captivity. She translated messages and passed information. A supply ship docks in 2 days, she told him one night, speaking in quiet Korean so the guards would not understand. It comes once every 10 days. That is our only chance. Tae-woo pressed his face close to the barrier between their cells. How do you know this? The Fennec, she said, gesturing toward the small rat-like creature in a cell across the walkway. His name is Kip. He's been here longer than anyone. He knows the station schedule. Tae-woo looked at Kip. The small alien met his eyes and gave a tiny nod. The supply ship docks at the main loading bay, Sora continued. It stays for about 3 hours while the Velthory unload cargo. During that time, the guards are distracted. Fewer patrols. How do we get out of the cells? Tae-woo asked. Sora smiled, but there was no humor in it. That is your job. Kip says you were an engineer on your ship. Tae-woo nodded slowly. He looked at the energy barrier, keeping him locked in. He looked at the metal frame around it. He had been studying it for days, but he had not allowed himself to hope. The barriers run on power cells built into the frames, he said. If I can reach the access panel, I might be able to disable them. But the panel is on the outside of the cell. Reska, Sora said simply. Taewoo looked at his companion. Reska was watching him, her ears moving as she tried to follow the conversation. Her claws could reach through the barrier. The barrier stopped bodies, but not things passing slowly. She could scratch the wall on the other side if she stretched. Can she understand what needs to be done? Sora asked. I think so, Taewoo said. But I need to show her. That night, when the lights went dim, Taewoo began teaching Reska. He scratched a simple picture on the floor with a sharp piece of metal he had broken from the water dispenser. He drew the cell. He drew the panel on the outside wall. He drew lines showing the connection. Reska watched with intense focus. She touched the drawing with her nose, sniffing it. Then she looked at the real panel on the outside of their cell. Taewoo made a gesture, the one that meant danger. Then he pointed at the panel. Then he made a slashing motion, like cutting. Reska's eyes moved from him to the panel and back. She understood. He could see it in her eyes, but there was a problem. The panel was electronic. Breaking it randomly would not work. He needed to disconnect specific wires in a specific order. He could not teach that through gestures alone. Taewoo sat back, frustrated. So close, but not close enough. Then Reska did something unexpected. She took his hand in her massive jaws, gently, so gently, and placed it on the floor. She looked at him, then at the panel. You want me to guide you, Taewoo said slowly. From inside the cell. I tell you what to do, and you do it. Reska made that soft rumbling sound. Yes, Taewoo felt a wave of emotion he could not name. This creature trusted him completely. She was willing to follow his instructions, even though she could not fully understand them. We will need to practice, he said. They practiced for hours. Taewoo would point at something in the cell. Reska would touch it. He would make gestures for different actions. Push, pull, scratch, twist. She learned each one. When morning came, they were ready. Or as ready as they could be. The day passed slowly. Taewoo could feel the tension in the cell block. The other prisoners knew something was coming. They were waiting down in the afternoon. Reth came to visit. The warden walked up to the barrier with his cold, intelligent eyes. He looked at Taewoo for a long moment. Tomorrow, Reth said, you will be separated from the beast. Taewoo felt his heart freeze. What? A buyer is interested in the Korath, Reth explained. She is rare, valuable, but buyers do not want a Korath that is bonded with another species. It makes them unpredictable. He clicked thoughtfully. So I will remove you. Sell you to a different buyer. Someone who needs human labor. You cannot do that, Taewoo said, though he knew Reth could do whatever he wanted. I can do anything I wish, Reth replied. This is my station. You are my property. He leaned closer. I considered keeping you together for study, but the risk is too great. The Korath might become uncontrollable if something happened to you. Better to separate you while she is still manageable. Reska growled. She could not understand the words, but she could hear the threat in Vreth's voice. She moved to stand beside Taewoo, her body tense. Vreth watched this with interest. See? Already she protects you. Fascinating, but also dangerous. He stepped back. Enjoy your last night together, human. Tomorrow you go to the processing center. He walked away, leaving Taewoo standing in cold fear. Sora's voice came from her cell. Taewoo, did I understand correctly? He is taking you tomorrow? Yes, Taewoo said. His voice was rough. Then we move tonight. Taewoo shook his head. The supply ship is not here yet. It comes tomorrow. Then we wait until it arrives and move immediately, Sora said. We cannot let them take you. If they separate you from Reska, the plan is over. She was right. Taewoo knew she was right. He sat down next to Reska. She pressed against him, sensing his fear. He wrapped an arm around her thick neck and rested his head against her fur. We are going to escape, he told her quietly. Tomorrow, when the ship comes, I need you to be ready. She rumbled softly and licked his hand with her rough tongue. That night, Taewoo could not sleep. He lay against Reska's warm body, staring at the ceiling of the cell. In his mind, he went over the plan again and again. The panel, the barriers, the route to the docking bay, all the things that could go wrong. Reska did not sleep either. She lay with her eyes half open, watching the walkway outside the cell. Guarding him, as she always did now. Around midnight, Kip tapped on the wall of his cell. A message passed from prisoner to prisoner until it reached Sora. Kip says the supply ship will arrive early, she whispered. In about 10 hours. The morning shift will be distracted by the docking procedures. 10 hours. Taewoo counted in his head. That would be shortly after the lights went bright. Tell everyone to be ready, he said. When the barriers go down, we all move at once. The guards will not be able to stop us all. Sora nodded in the darkness. Good luck, Taewoo. Good luck to all of us. He closed his eyes and tried to rest. He would need his strength tomorrow. Beside him, Reska rumbled softly. Her massive paw rested on his leg, keeping him close. Tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow they would be free, or they would be dead. There was no third option. They caged the human with a predator. By morning, the predator protected him like a cub. 3 days passed in the cell. Each day, Taewoo changed the bandages on Reska's leg. He had started calling her Reska in his mind. He needed to call her something, and the name felt right somehow. She still could not understand his words, but she understood his actions. When he approached with clean cloth, she would lift her leg and let him work. The wound was healing. The infection was fading. Reska's breathing was normal again, and she was eating the food the guards threw her into the cell. She always ate first, then pushed some of the food toward Taewoo with her nose. He did not know if this was kindness or instinct, but he accepted it. The other prisoners watched them with amazement. Word had spread through the cell block about the human who had tamed a Korath. Of course, Taewoo had not tamed her. She was not tame. She was still wild and dangerous. But she had chosen to accept him. On the 3rd day, a voice called out from a nearby cell. Human, human, can you hear me? Taewoo looked toward the source. 2 cells down, he saw a face pressed against the energy barrier. A human face. A woman with short black hair and tired eyes. Yes, he called back. I can hear you. My name is Sora, she said. I have been here for 2 months. I never thought I would see another human. Taewoo felt a wave of relief. He was not alone. I am Yoon Taewoo. They took me from a cargo ship. Sora nodded. They take everyone. Traders, soldiers, travelers. Anyone they can catch. She paused and looked at Reska, who was watching her with suspicious eyes. How did you do that? The Korath. They put her in cells with prisoners before. She always killed them. Taewoo looked at Reska. She was lying next to him, her body relaxed but alert. I do not know, he said honestly. She was hurt. I helped her. Maybe that mattered. Sora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You need to be careful. The Valkyrie warden has noticed you. His name is Vreth. He finds your situation amusing. When Vreth finds something amusing, he likes to play with it. Before Taewoo could ask more, he heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Many of them. Reska heard them too. She rose to her feet immediately, her fur standing on end. A low growl started in her throat. A group of Velthury guards appeared in front of the cell. There were 6 of them, carrying shock prods and restraint devices. Behind them stood another Velthury taller than the others, with darker shell plates and eyes that gleamed with cruel intelligence. Vreth, the warden. "So this is the human?" Vreth said. His voice was cold and sharp, like metal scraping against metal. "The one who made friends with the beast." Tae-Woo stood up slowly. He did not move away from Reska. "What do you want?" Vreth made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. "I want to see if the stories are true. My guards say the Korath protects you. I want to test this." He gestured to his guards. "Bring me the human." The energy barrier dropped. The guards stepped into the cell, shock prods ready. Reska's growl became louder, deeper. Her claws extended, scratching against the metal floor. The guards hesitated. They had seen what a Korath could do. They had seen her tear through prisoners like paper. "Move," Vreth ordered. The first guard approached Tae-Woo, reaching out with a restraint device. Reska moved. She was faster than anything Tae-Woo had ever seen. One moment she was beside him. The next moment she was between him and the guards, her body a wall of fur and muscle and fury. She rose on her back legs to her full height over 7 feet and roared. The sound was not like anything Tae-Woo had heard before. It was rage and power and ancient warning all at once. It filled the cell block. It shook the walls. Prisoners in other cells screamed and pressed against the far corners. The guards stumbled backward. One of them dropped his shock prod. Another fell to the floor. Vreth watched with those cold, intelligent eyes. He did not seem afraid. He seemed fascinated. "Interesting," he said softly. "Very interesting." He raised one thin hand. "Guards, retreat. Do not engage the Korath." The guards scrambled out of the cell. The energy barrier hummed back to life. Reska stayed where she was, still standing tall, still growling. She did not relax until the guards had moved several meters away. Then she turned and looked at Tae-Woo. She made a soft sound, not a growl, but something questioning. "Are you hurt?" That was what the sound meant. Tae-Woo was sure of it. "I am fine," he said. He reached out and touched her shoulder. "I am fine. Thank you." Vreth was still watching. "The Korath has adopted the human," he said to himself. "She treats him like a cub. Remarkable. I have never seen such a thing." He leaned closer to the barrier. "You are a curious creature, human. Most prey would have died of fear on the first night. You did something different. I want to understand what." "I helped her," Tae-Woo said. "That is all." "No," Vreth said. "That is not all. Other prisoners have tried to help her. She killed them anyway. There is something about you. Something in your species, perhaps." He clicked thoughtfully. "I will keep watching. We will speak again, human." He turned and walked away, his guards following behind him. Sora called out from her cell. "Tae-Woo, are you okay?" "Yes," he said, but his hands were shaking. He sat down against the wall, and Reska settled next to him. She pressed her side against his, sharing her warmth again. That night, Tae-Woo could not sleep. He sat in the dark, thinking. Reska had protected him. She had been willing to fight and die for him. A creature who should have seen him as food instead saw him as family. He looked at her in the dim light. She was watching him with those 4 golden eyes. "You are smarter than they think," he said quietly. "They see you as an animal, but you understand more than they know." Reska tilted her head slightly. Her ears moved, tracking his voice. Tae-Woo had an idea. He held up his hand, palm facing Reska. Then he pressed it gently against her chest, right where her heart would be. She went still. He repeated the gesture several times. Hand up, hand on heart. Then he pointed at himself, at his own chest, where his heart beat. Reska watched. After a moment, she lifted her massive paw. She pressed it gently against Taewoo's chest. He felt the weight of it, the controlled strength. She could have crushed him. Instead, she touched him with careful softness. Yes, Taewoo said, smiling for the first time since his capture. Yes, that is right. We are connected now. You understand. Over the next few hours, he taught her more gestures. A closed fist meant danger. An open palm meant safe. A wave toward himself meant come here. A push outward meant stay back. Reska learned quickly, faster than any animal should be able to learn. Her eyes were bright with intelligence. From her cell, Sora watched in amazement. How is she learning so fast? Because she is not just an animal, Taewoo said. The Valkyrie captured her and put her in cages because they thought she was a beast. But she is more than that. Much more. Sora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, my brother was like that. He could not speak well, but he understood everything. People underestimated him all the time. Taewoo nodded. Everyone underestimates what they do not understand. He looked at Reska. She met his eyes and made that soft rumbling sound in her chest. In that moment, Taewoo knew something had changed. He was not just a prisoner anymore. He was not just trying to survive. He had a partner now, a protector. And together, they might find a way out. They caged the human with a predator. By morning, the predator protected him like a cub. The lights went bright. Morning on the prison station. Taewoo was already awake. He had been awake for hours, lying still against Reska's warm body, listening to the sounds of the station. Now he felt the rumble through the floor, a deep vibration that meant something large was approaching. The supply ship. It was docking. It is time, Sora called from her cell. Her voice was calm, but Taewoo could hear the fear beneath it. He stood up. Reska rose beside him, immediately alert. She could feel the change in the air. Something was happening. Remember what we practiced, Taewoo told her. He pointed at the panel on the outside of the cell. When I give the signal, you reach through and do what I showed you. Understand? Reska made her rumbling sound. She moved to the barrier, positioning herself where she could reach the panel. Taewoo waited. He could hear the station coming alive around him. Guards moving, prisoners stirring, machines humming. The supply ship would be docking now. The guards would be busy. Now, Sora said. Across the cell block, Kip began to scream. It was a high, terrible sound that echoed through the metal corridors. Other prisoners joined in howling, banging on walls, creating chaos. Guards came running. They shouted at the prisoners to be quiet. They waved shock prods and threatened punishment. But there were too many prisoners making noise. The guards could not watch everyone at once. Taewoo gave Reska the signal, an open palm followed by a pointing finger. She moved. Her massive arm reached through the barrier slowly, carefully. Her claws found the panel on the outside wall. Taewoo watched her movements, calling out quiet instructions. To the left. Now down. There is a cover. Pull it off. Reska pulled. The cover came away, revealing the wiring inside. The red wire. Scratch it. She scratched. Sparks flew. Now the blue one. Twist it to the right. This was the hard part. Reska's claws were not made for delicate work. But she moved with incredible care, her 4 eyes focused on the wires. She twisted. The energy barrier flickered. Then it went dark. The cell was open. Taewoo ran. Reska was right behind him, her massive body moving with terrifying speed. They reached Sora's cell. Reska tore the access panel apart in seconds. Sora stumbled out, her legs weak from months in captivity. Can you run? Wu asked. I will run, she said through gritted teeth. They moved through the cell block, freeing prisoners as they went. Kip was one of the first out. The small fennec jumped onto Reska's back and held on with tiny claws. Other prisoners followed, a growing flood of bodies running toward the docking bay. Guards appeared. Shock prods flashed. Reska was unstoppable. She moved through the guards like a storm, her claws slashing, her roars shaking the walls. But she never went far from Ta Wu. Always she returned to his side, positioning herself between him and danger. They reached the main corridor. The docking bay was ahead. Tai Wu could see the supply ship through a large window. It was still attached to the station, its cargo doors open, but between them and the ship stood a wall of guards. 20 at least, all armed with plasma weapons. And in front of them stood Vreth. The warden held a plasma rifle in his hands. His cold eyes found Tai Wu in the crowd of running prisoners. Stop, Vreth commanded. Everyone stopped. The prisoners behind Tai Wu froze. Even Reska paused, sensing the danger. Impressive, Vreth said. You are more capable than I expected, human. You almost escaped. Almost? Tai Wu said. Vreth raised his rifle. Almost. But this ends now. You are too dangerous to sell. Too dangerous to keep. So you will die here, in my station, as a lesson to the others. Tai Wu felt the cold certainty of death. There was no escape from a plasma rifle at this range. No way to run. No way to fight. But then Reska moved. She did not charge forward. She stepped in front of Tai Wu, putting her massive body between him and the rifle. She looked at Vreth with her 4 golden eyes. And she spoke. Not in words. She could not speak words. But the sound she made was something more than a growl. It was a statement. A declaration. You will not hurt him. Vreth laughed his clicking laugh. Foolish beast. You cannot stop plasma. You will die, and then he will die. He aimed. Ta Wu grabbed Reska, trying to pull her aside. No, move. You cannot take that shot. She looked back at him. Her eyes were calm. She rumbled softly, the sound she always made when she was protecting him. Fire, Vreth ordered. A guard pressed the trigger, but the shot never came. From behind the guards, a massive explosion rocked the station. The wall of the corridor buckled. Guards flew through the air. Vreth stumbled and fell, his rifle clattering away. Kip jumped off Reska's back, squeaking in excitement. The other prisoners. They reached the power core. They are overloading the systems. It was true. Tai Wu could hear more explosions throughout the station. The lights flickered. Alarms began to scream. Go. Sora shouted. Now. While they are down. Tai Wu ran. Reska ran beside him. The other prisoners followed, streaming past the fallen guards toward the docking bay. But Vreth was not finished. He grabbed his rifle from the floor. He aimed at Ta Wu's back. You will not escape me, he hissed. He fired. Reska spun. The plasma bolt hit her shoulder instead of Tai Wu's spine. She roared in pain but did not fall. Instead, she leaped. Vreth screamed as the Korath landed on him. The scream was short. Tai Wu grabbed Reska and pulled her toward the ship. Come on, we have to go. They ran up the ramp of the supply ship. Inside, prisoners were already taking positions, some at the controls, others sealing the doors. Sora found the pilot station. Her hands moved over the controls. I can fly this, she said. My brother taught me before she stopped. I can fly this. The ship's engines roared to life. The docking clamps released. Through the windows, Tai Wu could see the prison station falling into chaos fires burning, debris floating, the structure itself beginning to break apart. Then they were free. The ship shot away from the station, away from the dead moon, into the darkness of space. Tai Tae-woo collapsed against the wall. Reska lay beside him, her wounded shoulder smoking. He pressed his hands against it, trying to stop the damage. "You stupid, brave creature," he said, tears running down his face. "You almost died for me." Reska looked at him. She made her soft rumbling sound and licked his face with her rough tongue. Sora came to stand beside them. She looked at the Korath, this massive predator who had protected a human with her own body. "How did you know she would not kill you?" Sora asked. "That first night, when they put you in the cage together." "How did you know?" Tae-woo thought about this. He remembered that night, the fear, the growl, the 4 golden eyes in the darkness. He remembered choosing to sit down, to hum, to show no threat. "I did not know," he said. "She was hurt and alone. So, was I helping her seemed worth the risk." So Ra was quiet for a moment. Then she walked back to the pilot station. She activated the ship's communication system. "This is Base Ra," she said, broadcasting to any human frequencies in range. "Former prisoner of the Valkyrie. We have escaped. I am with other survivors, including one of my own species." She paused, looking at Tae-woo and Reska. "The Valkyrie put a predator in his cage to kill him," she continued. "They thought humans were weak. They thought we would die of fear. But they did not understand us. When we see something hurt and alone, we do not run away. We help it. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." She ended the transmission. The ship jumped to hyperspace. Stars stretched into lines outside the windows. Tae-woo sat with Reska's head on his lap. Her wound was bad, but she was alive. They were all alive. The other prisoners gathered around Kip the Fennec, the tall blue alien, a dozen other species from a dozen other worlds. They looked at the human and the Korath with wonder. "Thank you," Kip said in his small voice. "You saved us all." Tae-woo shook his head. "We saved each other." He stroked Reska's fur. She rumbled softly, her 4 eyes closing in peace. Outside the windows, the stars of the galaxy shone bright. Somewhere ahead was human space, safety, home. They would reach it together, a man and a beast who should have been enemies, bound now by something stronger than fear. By morning, the predator had protected him like a cub. And now, in the endless night of space, they were free.